EasyMorph version 5.9.5 brings some exciting new features to EasyMorph Server, as well as the usual improvements and bug fixes. Historically, tasks in EasyMorph Server could be run manually or set on a schedule. Version 5.9.5 introduces task triggers, opening up the possibility for tasks to be executed on other events. As you can see, the tasks page now looks quite different, with each task also listing the triggers that are associated with it. There are lots of triggers planned for the future, with this release including the initial two. The first is the schedule trigger, which allows a task to be run at a set date and time, or upon a repeating cycle, just as you were able to in previous versions. When creating a task, you no longer set the schedule in the task settings. Instead, once created, you can add a schedule trigger and configure it to your required schedule. When upgrading to version 5.9.5, as always, your existing tasks and their schedules will be automatically converted to scheduled triggers. The first entirely new trigger added in this release is the email received trigger, allowing a task to be triggered when an email is received in a connected email inbox. It supports any email connector configured in the EasyMorph Server Space connector repository, and so supports Microsoft Exchange Server, including Exchange Online, Outlook.com, Gmail, Amazon's Simple Email Service, and any other IMAP compatible email server. Additional filters can also be applied so that the task is only triggered when emails are received from specific senders with a specific subject, or even only when the email includes an attachment. With this trigger, I can now run a workflow to process a new order form within seconds of my customer emailing it to me. Additional triggers will be added in upcoming versions, including a file event trigger allowing EasyMorph to monitor a folder for new or updated files, and a database rows trigger allowing tasks to be run when a new record appears in a specific database table. If you have any ideas for other triggers you'd like to see in EasyMorph Server, we'd love to hear about them. Head over to the EasyMorph community forum and let us know. Another entirely new feature added to EasyMorph Server is the inbuilt SFTP server. SFTP stands for Secure File Transfer Protocol, and much like HTTPS is an encrypted form of HTTP for communicating with websites, SFTP is an encrypted method for transferring files. Having a built-in SFTP server eliminates the need to install any additional third-party services when needing to securely receive files, especially from customers, suppliers, or anyone else outside of your organization. To enable the SFTP feature, firstly, head to the EasyMorph Server Settings page, and on the SFTP tab, enable the server. By default, the SFTP server service operates on port 22, which means your IT team can open up access to this port without compromising the security of the rest of your EasyMorph server instance. Once enabled, the feature can be turned on individually for each EasyMorph server space. Head to the Spaces page, select the space you wish SFTP to be available for, and on the Features tab, enable the SFTP server feature. You can also optionally choose which folder EasyMorph will use to store the files transmitted over SFTP. You can then use any SFTP client, such as WinSCP, OpenSSH, or FileZilla, to connect to the SFTP server and send and receive files. Boards in EasyMorph Server Explorer also receive some significant new features and improvements. Metrics sections in boards now update automatically in real time when the metrics value changes, without having to refresh the web browser page. Additionally, a new task section allows you to add a subset of tasks to a board, allowing users to find, manage, and trigger tasks without having to leave the board. To add a tasks section, edit the board, add a task section, give it a name, and finally, decide what group of tasks you wish to add. Tasks can be allocated to groups under the individual tasks properties when creating or editing a task. Combined, these two improvements open up lots of new use cases for EasyMorph server boards, such as in this example where my sales team can now monitor the ETL processing of orders in near real time, resolving issues and triggering tasks to reprocess orders if there is a problem. Not only does it save me time as the data engineer, but it empowers the sales team to manage their own data processes by self-service. In EasyMorph Desktop, we introduced facets in the last release, allowing data to be profiled and filtered in new exciting ways. We promised lots of additional facets were being worked on, and in version 5.9.5, we added the text length facet. As you might expect, this facet profiles values based on their character length, which can be extremely useful in scenarios where you expect data to be of a specific length. In this example, I have 2-digit US state codes. Being able to see that some are not 2 characters long can instantly tell me I have data quality problems. And as with all facets, I can filter on these erroneous values so that I can identify the problem records and resolve them at source. Version 5.9.5 also brings some improvements and additions to EasyMorph actions and functions. The pivot action has received 2 new options, the first of which is the ability to turn on and off aggregation. When turned off, values are pivoted without performing the usual aggregation, such as sum, count, min, or max. This makes it easier to simply transpose data rows of a table into columns instead. Note that no aggregation mode expects all values in the data to be unique, with an error occurring if they are not. The pivot action also now has an option for sorting the output columns. Columns can either be output in the order they occur in the data, or instead sorted alphabetically, numerically, or in date order depending on their data type. In the last release, we renamed the Ask ChatGPT action to Ask AI to reflect the fact that it can now work with any OpenAI compatible large language model, including local LLMs. In this release, we've added the ability to include attachments in the request to the LLM, opening up new possibilities for what is possible with AI in EasyMorph workflows. Ask ChatGPT to parse text from a PDF or give you a short description of a photograph. The possibilities are endless. The catalog command action now has a new command for incrementing catalog metrics. Although it was possible to increment a metric previously by reading its value, updating it, and then writing it back to the metric, there were scenarios where this could result in incorrect values. The new increment metric command overcomes this issue and makes it much simpler to implement also. This command is especially useful when coupled with the new auto-updating metrics in EasyMorph server boards. Note that you can use the increment metric command to also decrement a metric by setting the increment by value to a negative number. The workdays function has had an overhaul with the addition of some optional parameters, allowing you to specify additional dates which should be excluded or included from the calculation. If you haven't used it before, the workdays function allows you to calculate the number of working days between 2 dates. By default, it considers all dates which fall on a Monday to Friday as a working day. This update means the workdays function can now handle more complex scenarios, such as excluding public holidays or company-specific closure periods as additional non-working days, or countries such as many in the Middle East, which work a Sunday to Thursday working week instead. And finally, the names of modules can now be up to 30 characters long, hopefully meaning you won't have to abbreviate them quite so often. You can download this new release of both EasyMorph Server and EasyMorph Desktop by heading over to the Download section of the EasyMorph website.